Welcome to the Investor Lab, the auditory epicenter for passionate people seeking a life of freedom, choice, and abundance. And this loud guy that you can hear right now is me, and my name is Goose, and I'm with my wonderful, stunning, intelligent, vivacious partner, Gabi. How are you, Gabi?
Is that me?
That's you.
Am I all of those nice things?
You are.
Oh,
and
that's very kind.
many more. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. It is balmy today in Bondi.
What does balmy mean? Is balmy cold or warm?
That just came out of my face.
I have no idea if it's cold or warm. I've never known. Is balmy
warm.
good or bad?
I think it's good.
Yeah.
We live in a humid place, so I'll go
We
with
live in a
that.
human place. We definitely live in a human place. If you can hear birds in the background, congratulations. You've just passed our hearing test. No, if you can hear birds in the background, we are sat here. It's 7 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. It's our favourite time to record the podcast. Really kickstarts, really spices up the middle of the week.
Spicy.
And it's so beautiful. We can hear the birds chirping out the window, nice breeze blowing.
It is nice. Lots of dogs. Lots of dogs being walked.
Absolutely.
Adorable.
Beautiful sunlight.
Fluffy.
And today I'm drinking guest coffee. Guest coffee.
Guest coffee.
Guest coffee. Yeah.
Tell us about the guest coffee.
Well, the guest coffee is the coffee that you bring out when you've got guests and you don't want to give away all of your nice coffee.
I bought that.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was actually called guest coffee.
No, it's not. No. So this is just
it's
the cheap stuff. It's the cheap stuff. Not to, hey, friends, if you come around and visit, guess what? You're getting the cheap stuff. No.
You get the Woolworths home brand from Bondi Beach.
Well, you've got to just, anyway. So, look, we had some guests staying with us for the last few days.
Yeah.
So, some of my best, dearest, and oldest friends that probably know, well, not probably, almost certainly know way more incriminating stories about me than I would ever care to share. So hopefully no one actually finds out who they are, because it could be in a little bit of trouble. But so young family came and stayed with us in Bondi. It was the first time they'd come to visit us since we moved to Sydney. And they loved it here as well. They were like, wow, you guys got such an amazing life, and how wonderful. And we were talking about all this kind of stuff as well. And one of the big things that we kind of ended up talking about and touching on was like goal setting and stuff like that, wasn't it, Gabi?
Yeah, it's quite interesting because you and I spend a lot of time figuring out what we're doing, where we're going, what we want, who we are now, what we want from our life in 25 years. That it's kind of interesting when we, catch up with people who don't necessarily have that level of conversation with themselves or with each other, or just think about those questions at all. So it was really quite interesting. It's cool because everybody wants to aim higher. Everybody wants to set bigger goals. A lot of people just don't know how to start. They don't know what questions to ask. And I think your mate just asked, like, how do I get into this business stuff? And so it's like everyone kind of has that niggling of like, I could be doing more, but I just don't know. And it's just this vague kind of buzz in the back of their head. But, that's kind of where it stays for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And I think it's a really interesting thing, because I think anyone who has known me for more than a couple of years has seen a pretty radical change. But
yes.
More so in me than in Gabi. Gabi has always been a rock in the stream of chaos that's been bringing, sense to the madness. The whole time I've known her, I've been the madness. So
can you tell?
And 2 years ago, my life was very, very different to what it is now. And so for a lot of people, it's a bit hard to kind of understand change and how to do it. And yeah, as you pointed out, my friend, he was very excited by, the life that we live now, and, how happy and calm and, just all around, well, I would say happy is probably just the best way of putting it. He's like, how do I get into this entrepreneurship thing? How do I get into this entrepreneurship thing? I thought that's a very interesting question. It's a very interesting question, and it's a lot of the time people want tactics and strategies, you know, whether it be with property or business or whatever. They're after tactics. They're after strategies. What's the one thing? What's the one thing that if I do it, I'll have that thing that somebody else has? It's a pretty dangerous cycle to get into. And I mean, we've all seen it in property. You've got all these different people that have got all these different tactics. Oh, you just do this and this and this, and then you're going to have all of this. And a lot of the time, people are just selling their tools or selling their courses or whatever. And the reality is, well, tactics and strategies work. I'm absolutely not discounting.
There's a time and a place for them, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, like you must have tactics, but they must fit within a strategy, and that strategy must be aligned with a vision. So, but the problem, the big mistake that a lot of people make is they start with the tactics and then try and work out the vision later.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think because like tactics, it's a lot easier to wrap your head around tactics. It's a lot easier to, you know, read about Amazon online store and be like, that's sweet, I can do that. Think about all the little intricacies that's involved in that and think, oh, people make money doing that, I can do that. And there's like all these, there's these courses you can do, there's these guides you can read, like there's all this stuff, I just need to do it. But the problem is it doesn't fit in, as you said, it doesn't fit into a bigger strategy. It just doesn't make sense. And oftentimes it doesn't work because it's not actually in line with anything.
Absolutely.
You just do it because, you know, you think you're going to make money from it, or you think other people make money from it, or, you know, you think it's going to be fun, which it could be, but, you know, it's much more fun to have it in line with who you are and where you want to go rather than just, oh, there's this thing that I tried to do for a year and it didn't quite work. But
Exactly. And I think a lot of people don't even really understand, you know, it just applies to anything. I mean, you can look at your grass, right? Tactic, mow the lawn, have shorter grass. Okay, that's a tactic. Go mow the lawn. Strategy would be, okay, do I want to mow the lawn or will I get somebody else to mow the lawn? Am I going to call like Jim's Mowing or something like that? Am I going to pay the local kids? Am I going to do it? Do I get satisfaction in it? All of that kind of stuff. Vision would be, do I want to live in a place that has a lawn? And why? Is having a lawn part of the vision that I have for my life and my future and my family? For some people it is. We've got a lawn. It's about 3 meters by 3 meters. It's perfect. For us, that's perfect. That's a great size because we get a bit of lawn, but we don't have this like sprawling yard. Like that for us, that's perfect. For some people, they're like, nah, happy to live in an apartment or, you know, just concrete everything. We saw that a lot in some parts of Melbourne. But for other people, it's wanting to have a big sprawling yard, or for some people, acreage. But you really got to wind that back, and I think it's really important to tie all of that stuff together. What do you think, Gabby?
That was a really good analogy. You did really well there.
Thanks. Just made it up.
I know, you're good. You're good.
Thanks. So what we wanted to talk about today, off the back of having some scintillating, enlightening, enriching and invigorating conversations with our friends, and I was realizing that setting goals doesn't actually come naturally. And in fact, I had a conversation last night with a client who's coming to work with us, and he said to me, he was so excited. He's like, man, I've started setting goals for the first time in my life. And I was like, man, that's so awesome, right? This guy is like, he let's just say he's very new to the whole personal development concept. Okay, he's been like a brickie and a labourer, and he's just been doing his thing, and all of a sudden his mind he's had an awakening to some degree, and he's like, man, I'm writing stuff down, and look, I'm writing down like I want to put on weight, because he wants to build muscle, he wants to read 10 books this year. He started telling me all of these goals, and he was so pumped up on the call last night, and he's like, do you know what the craziest thing is, Goose? And I said, what's that? He said, everything I write down starts to happen. And I was like, oh, that's boom, awesome. You've discovered the secret.
Wow.
And he's only been doing this. It's literally been since the start of January.
That's
and
cool.
He started writing down his goals this year. And already he's like, oh my God, this is nuts. Like you start writing stuff down and it starts happening. Whether through it forcing your actions because you're more focused, or whether through some more esoteric, energetic channeling, that's Well, that's open for discussion, I guess.
So cool.
It's so cool. It's awesome. So, and then off the back of having conversations with our friends over the weekend as well, and talking about, they were like, how have you guys been doing all of this? Like, what's happened? What's going on here? And we're like, well, we just like talk about what we want to achieve. We plan for it. We think about it. We write it down, and we move consistently towards.
We give it a go.
Just move consistently towards the goals, but the problem is, and most people don't understand where the goals are. Very hard to hit a hole in one or even a hole in 20 if you have no idea where the hole is.
Yeah.
Right? You can't score a goal, or you've got a very slim chance of scoring a goal if you have no idea where the goalposts are. So that brings us to the topic of today's podcast, which is...
We're going to talk about some BHAGs.
We're going to talk about some BHAGs. BHAGs in the house.
Wow.
So I told Gabby I was going to get a bit excited on today's podcast.
He's had 7 coffees already.
Just guess coffee. I don't drink that much of it.
Which means it's only really like 2 coffees. BHAGs. In case you don't know what a BHAG is, it stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goals. They're those goals that, they sound kind of crazy, like a little bit out of reach for what you think is possible, but you set them anyway, and that's kind of the trajectory for your life, is kind of how I like to think of them.
Jim Collins really popularized this saying, or maybe even he invented it, I actually don't know, but in his book Built to Last, which is the successful habits of visionary companies. Now, if you run a business, now a lot of our clients, a lot of people listening to the podcast, people in our community are entrepreneurs just like us, and they have an interest in business. If you have an interest in business and you want to transform the way you think about business into playing the long game, I would highly recommend Good to Great by Jim Collins. It's one of the most transformative books that I've read in terms of how I've viewed business playing the long game. Highly recommend it. So his book prior to that was called Built to Last, and that's where he first introduced the idea of BHAGs, Big, Hairy, Audacious Goals. So just going back when we were catching up with our friends for dinner, and my friend said, so Goose, how do I get into this entrepreneurship game? And I said to him, well, what do you want? He couldn't really answer it. I was like, okay, cool. What are you passionate about? And he couldn't really answer it.
He had a really tough time.
He had a really tough time. And look, this is not a critique on him. This is literally like 95% of people, I would say. And he couldn't really answer it. I said, okay, like what would you do if you didn't have to work for money? And he couldn't really answer that either. He was like, I don't know, like travel the world and, go on adventures and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, that's kind of like if you won $1 million or won $10 million kind of go. And really where it came back down to was like, okay, you need to analyze yourself. Like, it's not about tactics. He was like, should I start a product funnel? Should I start a business? And I was like, no, you should go and do some deep personal work and work out who you want to be. Who do you want to be? Where do you want to go? And why? Great quote that I heard recently that really, really landed with me really deeply. Until you are prepared to go within, you will go without. I just thought that was so good. Until you are prepared to go within, you will go without. I just thought that was perfect. That ties in perfectly here. So, but what we're here to do is we're here to help people to actually have some action steps, right? So we've rambled a little bit. I think everyone gets the point about the importance of them. So let's talk about how you actually kind of do it. So step 1, you kind of touched on that. Conceptualize it. Just start going, okay, well, what is it that I want to achieve? What is going to give me that, that giddy sense of excitement?
Yeah. I think as well with this step, it's really important if you've got a partner, you need to make sure that you're on the same page here. I think, step 1 is kind of figuring out who you are and, doing that deep dive on yourself and who you want to become and all of that. But then it's also checking in with your partner and making sure, are we on the same page? Are we going in the right direction? Because you might want to be bloody fighter jet pilot. I don't think that was even a word, but
fighter jet pilot.
But they might want to, be a chef in Bondi Beach. I don't know. And you might have these completely different directions and not even really know about it because you haven't talked about it. You haven't done the work just for yourself. So you've got this vision of like, cool, this is where my life is going. It's going over that way. But they've got next to you, they've got, okay, cool, this is where my life is going. It's going this way. And particularly when you, like, if you've got kids in the mix as well, it's really quite hard if you've got two parents that are like stoked with where they're going, but they're going in different directions. So I think, point one is like conceptualize it yourself, but also make sure that if you've got a partner, make sure you're on the same page. At least have the conversation about it.
I think it's critical. I think it's absolutely the most critical. It's absolutely singularly the most critical thing. If you have a partner and you actually have any intention of wanting to live out the rest of your life with them, whether that happens or not, but if that's your intention, you need to get on the same page, right? Because given that this is probably new to you and your vision casting about what you want to create in the future, none of it yet really carries that much weight. You're crafting the future you, which is what's happening. And so I think it's actually the perfect pressure test. Because if I was to sit there and say, Gabi, in 10 years, I want to be a fighter jet pilot, and you said, well, I want to be a yogi in Byron Bay, we would have to pressure test that to see if those two things were congruent and is it still going to result in a relationship, and is that really what we want? And you start to really prioritize your values, and they really come into it massively. I really think that doing it with your partner is the most important thing you can do. And I think what you'll actually find is magic. You may find a little bit of tension because you're both going to be discovering parts about yourselves and each other that maybe you hadn't learnt before. But that's, and once you can approach that with like love and care and consideration and just say, I love you, what is it you want? And I want to support you. How can we do this together? I think what you're actually going to distill is something much, 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 much more exciting and much more magical than if you were to go and just do it yourself and say, hey, I've come up with my goals. What do yours look like? I don't think that really works. So just to put some kind of parameters on a BHAG, is a big, hairy, audacious goal, I want to lose 5 kilos by the end of this year?
No.
Why?
Too short time frame.
How long does the time frame need to be?
Well, according to Jim Collins.
Big Jim.
At least 10 years. No less than 10 years. If it's any less than 10 years, it's not really a vision. It's more of like a plan.
Tactic or something.
Tactical, strategic. Whereas if it's beyond 10 years, it's kind of like this, like, it is a vision of who you want to be and where you want to go.
Yeah, it should be so big that you couldn't do it in less than 10 years.
True.
It should be so big. It should be so big and so audacious and hairy that you can't do it in less than 10 years.
Yeah, you need 10 years of experience and...
Well, yeah, because it needs to land with that weight. It needs to land with a weight on you that is heavy enough that you're like, I am not even going to be able to do this in the next 10 years, but I'm so passionately, deeply committed to this outcome that I'm going to stay that course. That's how much it needs to land with you. That's why something like I want to own a Ferrari maybe that is for you. So I'm taking a little step back here. Maybe owning a Ferrari is a BHAG for you, and that's awesome. My point that I was trying to make was that tying it to something that is too attainable, too tangible, is going to... You're going to fall short. You're not going to really land with the depth that it needs to. So it must not be attainable in less than 10 years.
Yep.
Okay. It must be innovative, action-oriented, and compelling and exciting.
Yep.
Okay. So this works for business because you can set pretty massive business goals and you can think like, how am I going to steer this business in a way that is going to revolutionize the space that I'm in and create something that is lasting. And that's kind of the concept from where Jim Collins is coming from, or the position. In your own life, the principles are the same. You know, innovative is essentially change. You know, if it is in 10, 20, 25 years, I want my life to be exactly the same as it is now. I mean, that's good. It sounds like you're in a very happy place, and I'm delighted for you, but that's not very innovative. So maybe have a little think about that. Action-oriented. Action-oriented simply means that it must require you to take active steps towards achieving it. It can't just be in 25 years, I'm going to be 70. Because that's just something that's going to happen passively. In 25 years, the house that I own is going to be worth $500,000 more than it is. Okay. I mean, maybe, awesome. That'd be awesome. But that's not really an action-oriented goal.
Yeah. None of your actions really influence that outcome.
Exactly. And it's got to be compelling and exciting. It's got to be something that's really going to throw you into the gauntlet of life. Because we all know that life, business, real estate investing, whatever it is, it's not a smooth ride.
No.
It's not a smooth ride. And really, the aim of the game is to arm yourself with the weapons, the swords and the shields, the tactics and the strategies that are going to allow you to battle your way through the gauntlet of life, business, and real estate. But you will only win those battles. You will only overcome those barriers if you have a vision that is so strong that it grabs you by the neck and drags you forward. So powerful that you can't quit. So strong that even if the world were to crumble around you, you would wake up and say, okay, but I'm still moving towards my vision. That's how powerful it needs to be.
Yeah. I think as well, that to me, that's the biggest part of, people say that you should do what you love and find what you want to do and what you enjoy, because, if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life and all of that. But I think the point of that is that, as you said, it's loving it and committing to it and, being so compelled and addicted to it almost, that when it is a terrible day, when nothing is going right, and when, you're on the brink of it could all just fall to pieces right now, is this worth it? Am I still loving what I'm doing? Can I see that this is going to get me closer? Can I see that this is going to get me closer to where I ultimately want to be? Who I want to be, where I want to be, the impact I want to have. Because you're gonna have terrible days going through this. You set big, hairy, audacious goals in 10 years' time. It's not going to be a smooth ride. Getting there, there's going to be bad times, but it's about loving the journey so much that you just keep going.
Absolutely.
You keep trekking.
Absolutely. It's got to be your purpose.
Yeah.
Which
is usually what happens when people set tactical goals, is they end up quitting or cancelling whatever they're doing because they didn't set that passion from the start.
Like going to the gym. A lot of people don't last at that because it's a tactic and they don't tie it to a strategy or a vision.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm mindful of time. We're 30 minutes in. Mm-hmm. So, or thereabouts anyway. So conceptualize it. We've covered that, right? Map it out. Now, we may even actually be able to put a template for...
We can definitely give a template.
So we've actually got a 25-year goal setting template. It's pretty rudimentary, but it might help you break things down a little bit and conceptualize it. So do it with your partner, conceptualize it, work it out, find that thing that's going to give you excitement. And it could be multiple things. I'm actually going to share some of ours in a moment. Test it as well. So by testing it, that doesn't mean go out and get it done and see if it works. It means does it push you beyond your comfort zone? Really pressure test it in your own mind. and kick it around and chew on it. Masticate the idea. Let it roll around in your brain and really think, is this the life that I want? You know, test it.
It's so funny. I think that this is actually, I feel like this piece is, you know, people ask us how we've had our success to date. You know, we don't feel successful. We're still on a very long journey to where we want to go. But people ask us, like, what do you do that makes, like, that's given you the success that you've had? And I really think that this testing piece and this just chewing on it, I really feel like that's, you know, that's almost our superpower, is prioritizing time to think about this stuff. Like, we wake up, I mean, I'm not going to say I wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I try to wake up at 5 a.m. every day, but Goose is up at 4:45 every day. He will sit for an hour and a half, just with a notebook and a coffee, and he'll just sit and think, write down notes, write down his goals, read over his goals, and just think about all of this stuff. And it's committing like an hour or so every day to thinking about this. That's how you really test it. That's how you figure out, oh, okay, what I did yesterday, that wasn't really in line. Do I feel inspired today? Why not? What can I do today that's going to help me feel more inspired? What can I change that's going to move me forward? Do I feel uncomfortable enough that it means that I'm on track for where I want to go? Do I feel comfortable today? I should probably change something then. And I really feel like that's probably the biggest factor in why we do achieve the things that we set out to do, is because we take the time to actually think about it and just let it sit and not fill it with tactical, like, oh, I've got to write a checklist, and because I definitely get stuck in that. I try and build a system out of everything, but it's, you just sit there, just go, I've got an hour, I'm just going to sit. You can write notes and just think about it.
Can I just expand on that?
Yeah, for sure.
So, because I actually do the sitting and the thinking, but that hour that I spend every day is a combination of tactics, strategies, and vision all round into one, and that's why I do it every day. So just to expand on that, so I have a vision of where I want to go and who I want to be in 25 years. However, the tactics that I deploy on a daily basis to keep me in line with that, part of my commitment, which is kind of the third big step, is that in that hour that I spend every morning, I write down my 30-day... we've got our 25-year vision mapped out, planned out. We know where we want to go. And look, things are going to change. Of course, things are going to change. But at least you're consistently moving in the same direction. But I write out my 30 days, my 90 days, and then either my 12-month or my 25-year goals, depending on how, like, where my mind is at. I spend some time listening to myself. But the tactic that I deploy is that I write out with pen and paper my 30-day, 90-day, and my longer-term goals every day, or at least once a week, and read them every day to make sure I'm staying aligned tactically. Like, is what I'm doing today moving me towards that goal? And is that still what I want? Because I can tell you, if you're going to put pen to paper about it, you start thinking about it a lot, and you start to really notice, does this land with me? Is this what I want? And don't get me wrong, there's been things that have fallen by the wayside where I'm like, actually, I don't want that. I thought I wanted that, but really, the more I think about it, I actually don't think I do want that. And that's okay too, because what you're doing is you're distilling the process. That does not mean just go and make new stuff up every day, right? But it does mean that you should be critically analysing it. And I think this is probably the biggest takeaway that I can give to anyone, is write them down every day. It's all good. You can write down your goals on January 1st. Oh, I wrote goals. How wonderful. And then maybe look at them again at the end of January, and then maybe in March, and that's it, right? Cool. Who cares? No, that doesn't going to do anything for you. If you actually want to commit to it, if you actually want to make a commitment to improving your life and improving the lives of others and improving the life of your family and creating a better future for you, other people, to actually create a life of freedom, choice, and abundance, to create a life of impact, purpose, and meaning, you have to commit. It requires discipline. There is no escape from that. A lot of people, that's something they're going to have to learn, right? But here's the thing. You can choose to, or you can choose not to. In everything in life, you have only two choices. Do or do not. It is that simple. A lot of people overcomplicate it, and they think, but this, and but that, and maybe, and maybe I do it, but. It's very simple. You either do or you do not. And exercising the discipline to commit to your vision is the thing that is going to make the difference. And I will put it out there as well, that if you're not prepared to practice, exercise, and act on that and learn discipline and understand that it's all going to be part of your journey, then probably you don't have a big enough vision, or you're not aligning yourself with it enough. And that happens because you can come misaligned from your vision. You can actually lose your way. But you know why? Because usually you're not actually committing to it by writing stuff down. I am not inspired every day. I do not wake up every day thinking, oh my God, I'm going to eat the world. But I do practice discipline because I know that if I continuously align myself with the habits and the tactics and the strategies that are in line with that vision, that I will keep moving towards that goal even when I don't feel like doing it. That's the difference. So, just to recap, we've kind of covered over a lot of ground here, but really at the start, it's conceptualizing it. Don't be scared. Go big. Go hard. Freak yourself out. I just want to share a couple of things from our 25-year vision. I've got it open here as well. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because we don't have time, but it's quite long. We have stuff in there like, we've broken it down into the seed of life categories. So career, finance, intellect, health, family, social, and intimacy. And we've got stuff in there like, in 25 years, we want to be globally recognized experts in wealth creation, investment strategies, and personal and professional development.
Of course we do.
That's awesome. We want to have, let me just read through this. I want to have published 12 books on holistic wealth creation, investment strategies, and personal and professional development. 12 books. I want to read 50 books a year. We both want to speak 5 languages. We want to have 100 days of relaxation every year. I want to have run an ultra marathon. We want to scuba dive 20 times a year. I love scuba diving. We want to travel, in 25 years, I want to have traveled to outer space. We want to have established a charitable trust which donates $10 million a year annually. I've actually cranked that up since we wrote that. I've cranked that up to $1 million a week. In 25 years, I want to be able to donate $1 million a week to charity. Does that sound big? Does that sound freakishly big? Because it is. It is, because 10 million stopped landing with me. So I increased it to a point where I was like, if I could donate $1 million a week to charity, I know that I'd be living a life well lived. We also have more esoteric things, like we are pinnacles of love and happiness and inspiration and growth for all that we meet, and we feel loved, respected, and valued. So you've got to tie it to different things, but they've got to be pretty big. There is stuff in there about, how big we want our net worth to be and whether we want to own a private jet or not, which I probably don't anymore. My vision of success has changed. I don't really want a private jet. I don't even want a car. But we can get into that in another one. So conceptualize it, understand it, think about it, go hard, go big, test it. So pressure test it. Test it with your partner. Test the ideas. Masticate, chew, think, spend some time and make a commitment. Commit to the practice of it. Because it's commitment that's going to move you forward. Anything from you, Gabby?
Yeah, I'm just chewing on some of those goals that you shared of ours. I think I love sharing our goals because there's definitely an accountability piece there. And, we're the ones that practice this as often as we're preaching. So I love being able to inspire other people, but I also know that it can be quite intimidating for others to hear. You might hear people that have really big goals and wonder like, whoa, how did you get there? How did you decide that that's who you wanted to be? So I think it's really important as well to not adopt other people's goals. So don't listen to ours of,
No, I think I understand what you're saying.
Don't listen to our goals and then assume that that's what you need to do with your life. Don't hear our goal of, wanting to donate $1 million a week to charity and then go, oh, that sounds good. I'll do that. That sounds right. Unless that is really what you want to do. But I'm always conscious of trying to let people do this work first and without any prompts. Because I think that's a really tempting thing when you start looking into this is Google, okay, what's a good goal? What's a good BHAG? What's a good kind of vision that I could be? And then using that, and then that builds the framework around, and then you kind of fill in the pieces, but they're not actually in line with who you actually are. And I think I feel like the first piece is the really most challenging piece, because it's, particularly if you've never really asked yourself those questions, it's really just getting to know yourself and going, okay, who do I want to be? Not comparing yourself to some people on a podcast that, run a business and their goal, their priority is, business and health and family, and, that's where we want to go. But who am I? Like, just take yourself as a microcosm, because whatever you want to do is right. Whatever you don't want to do is right. All you are is who you are. So don't start with a comparison to someone who may be, 10, 15, even 2 years ahead of you. Because whatever answer you have for any of these exercises is correct at its core, I think. I just wanted to throw that in there.
That's very good. And that is a perfect example of the yin and the yang that we are. And that's beautiful. And you're 100% correct. You can discount anything that I shared about our goals if you want. The reason I shared them was not to try and create a comparison metric. And it's also pretty, vulnerable to share what we're doing as well, or what we want to do. The point was to try and help inspire, a thought pattern and process. But you're 100% correct, because the truth is pure. There is no versions of the truth. There is only what is. And what is for you is going to be very different to what is for me. In fact, there's a great book that you can read by Byron Katie called Loving What Is, which is an amazing book on that and just being in that space. And your BHAGs don't need to be necessarily as audacious as that. It's very much about finding that place where that's going to land for you, and it's going to, just going back to it, it's going to have the power to pull you forward through good times and bad, and it's going to have a deep meaning to you. And it's not going to be tied to tactics and strategies. It's going to be tied to a vision that is going to ultimately, I hope, create a better life for you and the people you love. So, I encourage you to go out there and act with courage and act with bravery, because it's scary to do this kind of stuff. Genuinely, I mean it. Greatness in anyone's life traces back to their courage to set goals and to do whatever it takes to achieve them, but also to step outside their comfort zone. And that's the most important message here, is to be prepared to get uncomfortable now to create what you want, and don't live a life in passivity. That's my message. I've energetically changed. I felt like Gabi really brought me down a notch.
I'm the decaf.
Yeah, Gabby's the decaf to my recaf.
Sorry, mate.
Okay, anyway, look, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We have been getting some amazing feedback, and I really appreciate it. If you have any feedback, reach out to us. We're very accessible. We're very open to talking to people. You can find us in our Facebook group, The Investor Lab. Just look that up.